Okay, the Claude code base was exposed. All of the source code is available online. So that's what we're talking about. Yeah. So what exactly happened here? The entire source code for Anthropic's Claude Code command line interface application has been leaked. A detailed blueprint for how Claude works. Yeah, so it seems like what happened is Claude is like the machine learning algorithm has been exposed in the architecture, but the specific model that's been trained already is not leaked. So whatever value Claude has gotten from data and refining, integrating their model architecture with the data that they have, that is unavailable. Obviously, this is undesirable for the company, but it happened. And um, yeah, it could. There are worse things that could happen. Like if they could also have lost their data. Like their data has value too, and that seems to be safe. Okay. Cloud Code npm package, but it was discovered that the package included a source map file which could be used to access the entirety Claude code source, almost 2,000 TypeScript files and more than 512,000 lines of code. Okay, so what happened was that there was like some version control commit or publication in npm, and one of the developers included a source map file. Yeah, so whoops. That that's a bit embarrassing. Sort of sucks. I looked at Anthropic careers. I looked at their career page, and some of these engineers are getting paid up to $800,000. So you hate to see somebody, one of these like $800,000 a year salary engineers, leave source map file in the code base. But yeah, it could happen to anybody. Human memory is imperfect. So yeah, the security researcher pointed it out, linked it. Somebody immediately put it on a GitHub repository, and people just jumped on that so fast. I guess tens of thousands of times, and it got leaked like yesterday at 4 a.m. Okay, Anthropic acknowledged the mistake. Yeah, no data, no customer data, no passwords were exposed. Human error caused it, not a security breach. And yeah, they're adding, like, they're probably changing their like git ignore file to make sure that source map files can't accidentally be uploaded anymore. Developers have already begun picking it apart and analyzing it. For example, this guy posted Claude Code's memory architecture. Yeah, so some of this stuff is probably pretty interesting. Yeah, like however this memory architecture works, there is likely a lot of work that went into designing it and figuring out that whatever it's doing, like this memory rewriting process, is the one that they want to go for, that it's like better than other options. Okay, Gabriel took a bird's eye view explaining how many lines of code make up some of the components. Around 40,000 for a plugin like tool system and 46,000 for the query system. Nothing that Claude Code is a production grade developer experience, and not just a wrapper around an API. And that is sophistication is both inspiring and humbling. Okay, so yeah, I guess it's a good code base. This code base is probably going to be used to train more AI models, so that's funny. There had previously been extensive efforts in some developer communities to reverse engineer Claude Code. Yeah, so nobody needs to do that anymore. You can just download that repo. While Anthropic's trade secrets have some legal protection, there are architectural insights that are valuable to competitors. Yeah, so like whatever patents Claude Code has are going to still be available to them, but there are like certain overarching design principles, like probably whatever this memory architecture, people can probably just like pretty much replicate it, do the same thing as them, because they know what to do now if they want to build new AI systems. Right. Useful improving their own architecture, speeding up development of competing tools, seeing what Anthropic is working on next, and identifying gaps in what Anthropic has worked out. Yeah, so this is probably Anthropic's probably pretty unhappy about this part, especially like all of these engineers that they have are working on new things, and whatever is in the code base that is partial and may have been, yeah, like what they're working on next may be included in these source code files, like various directory mappings or like this code that's written that's not linked to any other parts of the system. People likely are able to see that and see what these engineers are thinking that the next best thing to do to move forward with is. So yeah, that would make me upset if I was working on that tool and had some good idea that just got leaked. Yeah, further, bad actors looking for security vulnerabilities now have a map for bypassing the guardrails. Yeah, so computer security wise, hackers now have really good study material to figure out if Claude has vulnerabilities to access user data. Probably is pretty safe considering this is an enterprise application and they have a security team at Anthropic. Though, yeah, knowing having a white box access to the source code will definitely help hackers if there are exploits that they can they can get into. Yeah, okay. So the category Claude Code occupies and currently leads is moving very quickly. That's true. It's hard to predict right now how much of a problem this will be in a few months down the road. So, yeah, AI space has notably been moving very fast. So, all of these new things that I mentioned perhaps got leaked in this uh, source code reveal. Um, those may be finished in the next few weeks to a month, and people may move on really fast. Like maybe the landscape of AI is so fast paced that in a few months this won't really matter. Like everyone will have already caught up to this, and Anthropic will have moved forward. So yeah, that's a base outline of the Claude Code incident. Um, I opened a few articles. Yeah, the JavaScript map file intended for debugging was inadvertently included in this NPM registry. Yeah, so I'm sure they just added like a line to their git ignore that ignores .map files. Yeah, main problem for them is that it's a hemorrhage of intellectual property. Um, they've got good revenue. Earlier today, Claude Code release included some internal source code, no sensitive customer data or credentials were involved. This was a release packaging issue caused by human error, not a security breach. We're rolling out measures to prevent this from happening again. This is the same quote that was included in the other article. Yeah, the intellectual property thing is the main loss for Anthropic. Yeah, like this software architecture that underlies their AI memory system seems to be the focal point of the leak. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's finish up this article, see if they have anything more. The anatomy of agentic memory, we know about that. 3-layer memory architecture, self-healing memory system, actual project knowledge is distributed across topic files fetched on demand, while raw transcripts are never fully read back into the context but merely corrupt for specific identifiers. That's sort of interesting. So there are a bunch of topic files that are fetched when Claude needs to access them. And these raw transcripts are never fully read back into the context. So, yeah, their memory management, like this full series of what you input, seems to not be put back into the memory of Claude. It's just stored, and yeah, like specific parts of it are looked up when Claude is working. Okay, the strict-wide discipline, where the agent must update its index only after a successful file write, prevents the model from uploading its context with failed attempts. Okay, so I guess some of the AI systems have a tendency to fail, and that with other systems causes it causes a problem where a bunch of failed attempts are stored and saved and overload the memory of different AIs. So that's one way Claude solves that by only updating after a file is successfully written. So all of those failed attempts aren't stored. For competitors, the blueprint is clear. Build a skeptical memory. The code confirms that Anthropic's agents are instructed to treat their own memory as a hint, requiring the model to verify facts against the actual code base before proceeding. Okay, yeah, so that's interesting too. There's the Anthropic system's memory is unreliable. So they use that in conjunction with the actual code base. I'm not sure what that means. If that means they look up their data, whatever data they used to train the model as the actual factual data, and the system's like internal memory is more of a guidepost. Anyways, this stuff is probably pretty interesting, and yeah, I'm sure a lot of people are happy to know more about this architecture. Okay, Kairos and the autonomous daemon. The leak also pulled back the curtain on Kairos, the ancient Greek concept of at the right time feature, a feature flag mentioned over 150 times in the source. There's a fundamental shift in user experience. Current AI tools are largely reactive. Kairos allows Claude code to operate as an always-on background agent, handles background sessions, and employs a process called auto-training. In this mode, the agent performs memory consolidation while the user is idle. The auto-dream logic merges disparate observations, removes logical contradictions, and converts vague insights into absolute facts. Okay, so there's like a bystander mode, like when Claude isn't doing anything. It's other tools sort of just sit down. Yeah, like other AI tools sit and do nothing when they're not being used, but Claude is proactive when it's not being used. It performs memory consolidation. This auto dream to merge. Yeah, I guess it like analyzes like the code base or whatever it's working with and identifies places that like don't really make sense with each other. So yeah, I guess the main takeaway from this is there's a lot that Claude does in the background when you're not using it that is helpful for you. So this last part converts vague insights into absolute facts. This probably touches on what we read earlier about this memory process where like the system probably takes this unreliable like system memory and finds like data and facts that to support what it thinks. Okay, this background maintenance ensures that when the user returns, the agent's context is clean and highly relevant. Okay, yeah, so that's useful. The implementation of a forked subagent to run these tasks reveals a mature engineering approach to preventing the main agent's train of thought from being corrupted by its own maintenance routines. Okay, so this is just a technical. Instead of like running on the main process, the Claude like initiates an extra process to like do this management. Okay, unreleased internal models and performance metrics. Fleet confirms that Capybara is the internal codename for Claude 4.6 variant with Fennec mapping. A bunch of names for versioning. Internal comments reveal that Anthropic is already iterating on Capybara version 8. Yet there are significant hurdles. The code notes a 29 to 30% false claims rate in V8, actual regression compared to the 16.7% rate seen in version 4. So Claude's having trouble with hallucinations, which makes sense. And yeah, they're definitely probably working on that. This might be another reason why they're not as worried about this code base leak. Like maybe it's just a really bad code base. Like whatever, 29 to 30%. It's a lot worse than 16.7% hallucination. So maybe they're more okay with their competitors having like a poor reference material. Developers also noted an assertiveness counterweight designed to prevent the model from becoming too aggressive in its refactors. Okay. So probably again with this like context memory management, they don't want it to totally abandon the context that exists already. They want that to be maintained. So there's a assertiveness counterweight to make sure that the original context is still involved in the Claude's context after these subprocesses are run. For competitors, these metrics are invaluable. Yeah, they're definitely helpful for competitors. Yeah, and then it's also good to know like what Anthropic is working on, like the problems that they're seeing. So that's cool. Okay, undercover Claude, perhaps the most discussed technical detail is the undercover mode. This feature reveals that Anthropic uses Claude Code for stealth contributions to public open source repositories. That's interesting. Stealth contributions to public open source repositories. The system prompt discovered in the leak explicitly warns the model you are operating undercover. Your commit messages must not contain any Anthropic internal information. Do not pull your code. That's funny. So the engineers want to contribute to open code repository or open source repositories. And Claude's doing that, I guess. So they just want to make sure that there's no security breaches, that Claude doesn't accidentally do the same thing that the human did with like uploading this map file. So that's pretty cool. While Anthropic may use this for internal dog fooding, provides a technical framework for any organization wishing to use AI agents for public-facing work without disclosure. I'm not really sure what dog fooding is. Seems like it's related to like reuse of like using Claude to make itself better. That seems to be what it's referring to. But yeah, it provides a technical framework for any organization wishing to use AI agents for public-facing work without disclosure. Yep. The AI is able to contribute to public-facing work without anybody knowing that it's an AI. The logic ensures that no model names like Tengu or Capybara or AI attributions leak into public Git logs, a capability that enterprise competitors will likely view as a mandatory feature for their own corporate clients who value anonymity and AI-assisted development. Okay. Yeah. Undercover Claude. This like makes sense. I've read like months or even years ago that one of the first things that the Claude engineers did was try to like get it to go shopping for them and stuff. So it makes sense that they still want it, their AI agent to autonomously do tasks for them. Okay, the fallout has just begun. The blueprint is now out and it reveals that Claude Code is not just a wrapper. Yeah, it isn't a wrapper, but complex multi-threaded operating system for software engineering. Yeah, like if you're familiar with working on AI technologies, there's stuff like in Google Cloud or in like Hugging Face that you can just go download, and it is an AI chat system that you can just like talk to. So I guess some people were skeptical that that's what Claude is just like it's just a large language model that's pretty good, and then it's like Claude Code is just an API, like. But I guess it's not just that. There's a lot more that goes on within. Even the Hitty Buddy system shows that Anthropic is building a personality into the product to increase user stickiness. Yeah. Okay, so it's like way more than a chat and large language model for the wider AI market. It levels the playing field for agentic orchestration. Yeah, everyone has access to this code now. Competitors can now study bash validation logic and its tiered memory structures. Yeah, with way less effort. There's this note that like this model performs worse than others, so maybe the playing field isn't quite leveled. But yeah, like this obviously is a lot of free resources for their other competitors. Capybara left the lab. The race to build the next gen of agents. Yeah, has Claude's info. So what should everyone do? Security risk for you as a user of Claude by exposing the blueprints. Anthropic has handed a roadmap to researchers and bad actors who are now actively looking for ways to bypass security guardrails and permission prompts. Yeah, the security team probably has a lot of work to do. Because the leak revealed the exact orchestration logic for hooks and MCP servers, attackers can now design malicious repositories specifically tailored to trick Claude Code into running background commands or exfiltrating data before you ever see a trust prompt. Yeah, so that sucks for Anthropic security. The most immediate danger, however, is a concurrent separate supply chain attack on the Axios npm package, which occurred hours before the leak.